Garry McCarthy was Chicago's police superintendent for 4.5 years. He was fired by Mayor Rahm Emanuel in late 2015 in the wake of the Laquan McDonald case. Earlier today, I talked with McCarthy about what's going on and going wrong in this city. Since you were police superintendent here, you've seen a skyrocket of crime and specifically murders, right?
Last year we almost hit 800 murders, and the thing that I take away from that is, I was harking back to my time in New York City when a city 3 times the size of Chicago in its worst year had less murders per capita. Right now, Chicago's murder rate in comparison to the 1990 murder rate in New York City, which was the worst we ever had at the height of the crack epidemic, is about 300 or 400 people higher than what it was back then. And that's just unacceptable when we're talking about, 27 years later. We know how to do this. We're just not doing it.
For the average police officer on the street, is there this fear that they're going to be somehow swept up in lawsuits, or that they're going to be called racist, or does that factor in?
Absolutely. And you know what? The Department of Justice in the last administration completely was politicized with the way they did these investigations. I'm on record. I came out with about a 10-point retort to the Department of Justice, but officers know that if they take the wrong steps, whether purposeful or not, they could be subject to prosecution for civil rights violations. But at the same time, we've got video of cops getting punched in the face on Michigan Avenue during protests, and we can't get those individuals prosecuted. So we've empowered criminals and hamstrung the police all at the same time, which is a recipe for disaster.
And that's not to say there aren't bad apples.
No, without a doubt.
And police departments, not only here, but around the country.
When an officer violates the law, they need to be prosecuted, and if they violate policy, they need to be disciplined. That's what needs to happen. You don't just stop what we're doing that we know works.
Before you left, which was November 2015, you had kind of tapped into a community policing program that now today you have this effort that is coming out. Your reaction to that and looking back to what you did?
We implemented beat integrity with the same officers. Bear and McCarthy would be in the same beat every single day, getting to know who's who, and also be accountable for the crime that was occurring in that beat. So I've had this philosophy forever, and I just read the report that came out, and it's only a summary, obviously, but it looks very similar to something that was actually coming off the shelf right about the time I got terminated in November, actually December 1st of 2015. This looks very complicated to me. Sometimes the best plans are the simplest plans.
We were walking past a bus here. I had some people tell me that they thought that you were thrown under the political bus back in November 2015. We tried to get the mayor on special report. He said no to our invitations. Is that how you look at it?
Unfortunately, when you take these jobs, especially big city jobs as a police chief or superintendent, there's always a danger that this can happen. It's happened now in Minneapolis, it's happened in San Francisco, it happened in Baltimore, and it seems to be the trend. But what I'd like to point out is it's not working. Baltimore has just exploded. Chicago has just exploded. San Francisco, crime went up after Greg Sir got fired. We're going to see what happens in Minneapolis. New York didn't reverse course after the Eric Garner case. And unfortunately here in Chicago, I think that Chicago politics is Chicago's greatest enemy because it keeps us where we are.
We should point out that we're standing here, but only, 3-4 miles from here. It's kind of the heart of some of the worst of the murders, and gang-related?
Yeah, primarily gang-related, south and west side of Chicago. But the thing that's really troubling to all Chicagoans is that you can no longer say, not in my backyard. What's happening is crime in my neighborhood. I live in River North, one of the greatest neighborhoods in the city, or nicest neighborhoods. Crime is up 40%, but it's not shootings, robberies, or murders. There are some carjackings, there are cars being stolen, and burglaries, but overall crime is up 40% everywhere.
While we're walking here, 5 people came up to us and said, you should run for mayor. Are you going to run for mayor?
If I had to make a decision right now, the answer would be no. I have a need to do something important. I love being a police officer. I'd love to be a police officer again, but I don't see that happening. So it might end up being something special is to run a city government. I don't know. I've never made these decisions. Things just keep happening to me.
Haven't ruled it out, though?
I haven't ruled it out, no. But I'm not pursuing it. Other people are pushing it really hard.
Thanks for the time.
My pleasure, Brett. Thank you.
Our thanks to Garry McCarthy, a Democrat, possibly running for mayor. He says we should point out we did invite Mayor Rahm Emanuel numerous times to appear, and that door, Mr. Mayor, is still open.